could say a new friend. We connected through the Visionary Business School, and Kelly Roach is a coach to us. And so we met online. He was looking to get a guest for a podcast, and we connected, and here we are. We connected through the Visionary Business School. There we go. Right, and 1 second here. Kelly Roach is a
Where is this now coming from?
coach. It's doing the live stream. So we met online. He was looking to get a guest for a podcast, and we connected, and here we are.
Okay, because I'm hearing you twice.
Yeah, that's part of the modern technology world. So, but what's great though is that there's a slight pause on the live stream. So anyway, for those that are just joining us on the live stream, this is Marcus Tabell, and we are together, and I'm Mike Ratner, or Dr. Mike as my avatar is being called these days. And we're live on Mondays.org, the Monday Morning Motivation Program. So we're just getting started here, and Marcus is making himself at home, in his home.
Yes, I'm home. So, but this is what life is all about. I mean, well, you hear some noise in the background, and then you have to react on it. I mean, it's like, well, like every other Monday, I would say. This is what we wanted to talk about, right? I mean, about Mondays, about focus, about energy, and how to kickstart your week.
Yeah.
Cool.
So let's do it. So as a mindset coach, what is your perspective? And also, how does Germany feel about Mondays? In America, we have mixed reactions to it.
Well, okay, where shall I start? I mean, as a German, as a typical German, I would say, whereas a typical German is not the entrepreneur one. I mean, it's more, the proper worker, right? I mean, who's enjoying the weekends and who's working from Monday to Friday just to have some days off over the weekend. So a Monday is for most of the Germans really something like, oosh, still 5 days to go. So if I would be nasty, right? But this is, of course, an exaggeration, right? So, I mean, there are a lot of people loving to kickstart their work week on a Monday morning because they see other people in the office. Or, I mean, in my case, I'm working predominantly with entrepreneurs. It is, hey, I mean, this is now really, again, the time to make an impact.
So, because Monday is a time to make an impact, are you saying right now in the economy or the world business cycle? Well, how do you see things?
Yeah, well, I mean, you have to see this on a microeconomical side or macroeconomical side. And I do see this really, I mean, on the personal level, right? That a Monday is sometimes like, hey, let's think about it again. What I'm actually about to do. I mean, what is my vision? What do I want to achieve? And it's not just simply walking through your to-do lists in that sense. I mean, like most entrepreneurs or people have it. It's really on recalibration on the big picture of what you want to achieve in life, maybe.
That's a great topic to just swing right into. And yeah, we ought to have a theme and Mondays is a great way to do that. So we could send you some, or when we get together, your Mondays cap. have a really whole box of them. So
okay.
So we can offer it as a contest, actually for our listeners and viewers, if they're interested in one we could do something where there's a viral share of Marcus's content today, and give us some feedback if you would, leaving a comment or even emailing us. And Marcus, I imagine you would make yourself available. If somebody was interested in your coaching, what ideas you're going to be sharing today.
Sure.
So
Sure.
We'll go ahead. You'll be able to find Marcus' information. We'll post online, and you can go to Mondays.org and have a replay of this as well.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's officially begin. So, yeah. So Mondays is sort of a bit of a mindset, right? Because someone could wake up in the morning and go, "Oh my God, it's Mondays. I got to start the week and whatever." Or someone gets like, "Hey, I'm back at it again. It's another great week to make things happen."
I'm back, and this is what I see, and also while looking at on my own story, I would say. I mean, I'm originally coming from the typical corporate world, right? I mean, I've been a manager, international manager, working my. Is it okay to say butts off here on the podcast?
Yeah,
is it okay?
especially
Yeah, okay.
So
not that we do have some beep tone at some point, right? So I was really working my butts off, and At some point, a Monday was really like a feeling like a nightmare because I knew exactly when I was opening up my mail Outlook, I would have 200-300 more emails just on a Monday, which just came in over the weekend.
That would be
So
200, and we're not talking about spam now. We're talking about
no,
these.
we're talking about real. Yes.
Yeah, so Marcus, we should give a little bit of your background. You know that you had worked for a number of big companies. You were played key roles, you know, in helping the top level executives. And the stress on you is quite amazing. Although you at the beginning bought into it, you were having the success and all that, but then you found like there's something more, there's something missing. Please tell the story because I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, well, I mean, to cut a long story short, I mean, as I said, I mean, I've been I'm an international manager. I was working for a high tech company worldwide. Had roughly 120 people below me. So from Lake Forest to Newton to Reston to Solothurn in Switzerland, Stockholm and Skellefteå in Sweden to Bangalore in India. Kuala Lumpur, Beijing. So I mean, all over the place. So I was living at sometimes I thought I was living just at the airport. So that is so a typical business or a corporate career, I would say. And why I wanted to talk about today about focus and energy is actually that at that time my focus was only on productivity. So really only looking into how can I optimize myself, how can I squeeze out 1 hour more just to be more productive in that sense. I mean, to really focusing only on the results, on the output. And that was draining me. And at some point, roughly 12 years ago, I came to a point where I, had a burnout, I would say. And because I was doing so many things at the same time, right? I mean, working as a manager, doing my MBA at the same time, having some private things ongoing as well. And then I decided and had the very good idea. Well, I don't want to work that much any longer. Just become an entrepreneur. Just step into.
Just like that. Like, oh,
Yeah. So I mean, now I'm working for me, and I had actually 3 people working for me. That was me, myself, and I. At some
we should have
point.
people on payroll.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I was still working then in the corporate environment as an interim manager, as a consultant, as a company builder. So I was doing digital transformation projects. I mean, for smaller companies, but also companies with 5 billion in yearly revenue, or companies which are listed on the US stock market.
So did you still, so in that process of doing the transformation, you could say a transition, you saw yourself as this entrepreneur in the corporate world. So at some point you really had to sort of really make the break. And
Yes.
do something that was a catalyst or that occurred that just said, this is it, I'm doing it now. And or was it just a smooth transition out?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say it was a smooth transition. I mean, it took took some time for me actually, and to realize that the way I'm working, the way I'm doing, the way I'm thinking, and the way who I was behaving wasn't really doing me any good. And now I'm not talking about that I was physically suffering or something. It was just that, I mean, I had always big dreams. I always wanted to achieve a lot, right? And I was always hitting the top ceiling, and I was getting frustrated in one way because I wanted to be feel satisfied in a way at the end of the day. I want to feel satisfied with myself. And the only thing what I was doing was chasing the next productivity hack, the next outcome, but I wasn't looking really onto the process of actually doing stuff, and also focusing on identifying what is really meant for me, or what do I really want to do.
That's really good about that. And Marcus, I think just in relationship to how he's done the show, typically that essence of like what people will get today, I think, where they're going to find true meaning and purpose. And talking about focus in particular, I'm going to do what we did in the past, which basically I'm going to give you the screen. And so this is kind of like the warm up and introduction. If you're just joining us on Mondays.org, Our guest today is Marcus Tabell, who is a mindset coach. So he works particularly in the business world. What he does is really sort of really kind of unique and remarkable in the way that people could find sort of a true sense of who they are rather than playing a functionary role. So if that's good enough, Marcus, I'm just going to let you have it. So I'll go off, but it's all yours. And you can just get into it. And then whenever you want to call me back on, you want to tease me or do some group exercise, or you want to come back to yeah.
Yeah, but you have to stop me, right? Sometimes I well,
I'll get you on something if I'll do the coaching offline on my side, being the host. All right, don't talk about that. No, I don't do that. But you'll see my notes if I have to say anything or elaborate, or if we get a question, and I'll also comment that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, shoot them over, right? So in the past, and I also see this, I mean, as a past me and a current me and a future me in a sense, right? I always dreamt about, well, in the past, I was dreaming about being the big businessman, like the guy, I mean, who was just called, I mean, 911, Marcus, come and save us in that sense, right? I mean, then I'm jumping out of the helicopter with a parachute like James Bond and just securing and helping the company. I mean, that was my childish idea at some point in my life, until a very hard moment, I would actually say, was really the turning point in my career. And that is, I think 4 years ago, right? I was at the end of the year, again, focusing on my goals for the next year, as well as 3, 5, and 10 years. And at that time I was a company builder. So I was setting up a company on behalf of 2 German big investors. I had my own team with a couple of people. So I was doing everything from business case, from negotiations with the banks, on getting the funding, on organizing the office, and getting partners on board, and supporting also the founder, who was a technician, right? And I did this for a year, and I was still feeling, well, I'm doing too much, right? Instead of doing less, which I always wanted to do, I was again working 7 days a week, and I hardly ever saw my wife, right? And I was sitting in my office. I mean, I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning, went to the office, working until 7 in the evening, and a Saturday, Sunday, even when the sun was shining, I told my wife, "I'm sorry, dear. I have to go to the office. I still have to do some work." And that was the scenery. So I was sitting there at the end of the year, and in a way frustrated that I have again not kept the promise to my wife that I will only work 4 days a week, right? And that was a Sunday evening in my office, and I was writing down again my yearly goals, right? And I also created a vision board, right? I'm also a visual guy. And on that presentation, I took a picture of the most famous street here in Düsseldorf, which is the Königsallee, which is a very expensive street with a lot of the fashion designers and Rolex and Chanel and so forth. So it's a very famous street here in Germany. And I created that vision board with the pictures of the Königsallee, and I wrote down, I wish I have at least once a week time for a nice coffee with my wife, right? Because I hardly ever saw her. And that was in a way shocking for me, together with the fact that while I was writing down all my yearly goals, as well as the what I wanted to achieve in 10 years time, financially, business-wise, how people see me, what also on the personal development side, then I wrote down something like, in 10 years time, I'm satisfied with myself. And then it hit me. It hit me like, well, I don't know. I don't know how to call it or how to explain it in English, but it was like a truck was hitting me on the street. I mean, like a big smack. And I realized, yes, I mean, I did it again. For the past 10 years, I was always promising my wife I want to work less, right? I want to spend more time also with the family. And I didn't. And I still was doing a lot of stuff, and I was good at what I'm doing, right? But I was always looking, instead of saving time or on the productivity side to see, okay, how can I be more productive to have more free time? It was, how can I be more productive to do more? And that was something I needed to shift.
Yeah.
And at that time, I decided, hey, I need to really make a cut here and really work on my energy on that sense, because I was only focusing on the outcome and trying to find the satisfaction in what I had achieved. But the reality was kicking in that that the moment I achieved something, it was like, and now, so what? Right? I mean, the feeling of being happy or proud wasn't really there, and this is what I see with a lot of entrepreneurs actually, that they are just trying to achieve something in their life. They're just trying to achieve maybe the next customer, maybe the 10, 20, 50, or 100K months, and once they got it, they don't feel the inner relief or an ease in what they're doing.
Right. So it's part of like that. They feel like maybe not even the recognition they got something done because they're not quite where they envision themselves, and they're never going to get there because they're on this treadmill.
Yes.
So it's getting them to kind of recognize that they are good enough, but at the same time they can't get off or change the pace of the treadmill or the direction of it. Maybe.
Yeah. 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 And so, even though, I mean, I started with what I call personal development in very early age, right? I started to meditate when I was 12, 13 years old. I read a lot of, well, at that time, personal development books. So I had to realize that, hey, to be honest with myself, if I look into my mirror, I have no clue whatsoever what I really want in life, what
So
really satisfies me.
you had that realization to yourself. You just said, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. What I did know at that time was that I didn't want to work any longer in a corporate environment, but with people. So, and that's a huge difference, right? I mean, if you work in a corporate environment, I mean, I was working on a CEO or board level, and I was, well, targeted with transformation things, while changing organization, implementing processes, and so forth. That it was always the time that the person was not in focus, but the process,
Oh,
right?
interesting. So
And
what does that involve though, as far as like, so one, you'd be the overseer of things, but you have to implement the processes that you mentioned that involve people, and whether you have to buy in or they're even conscious of it. What's that environment like? Because I just,
well, it is. It is. Well, I was always then the external guy, and well, as an interim manager or as a consultant, I mean, you're usually booked by the board. I mean, if for two reasons. One is, as an interim manager, well, I mean, we need to we have an open vacancy, and until we really get the manager, we need to get somebody in. I mean, just to fill the gap. But most often it was like, hey, I mean, there's a process or there's a project I want to implement as a CEO in that company, but I don't want to burn any of my leadership or anyone from my leadership team. So I better bring somebody in from the external side. I mean, he can burn there himself, right? I mean, he is doing the dirty bits, right? And he can also be sometimes the hard guy. And the CEO would say, well, it's not me, it's him, right? So there was then sometimes a bit of a discussion, I would say, with the management team or with the people I needed to bring on my side to really implement the changes in the company.
you're just joining us, you're watching mondayslive.com. Also, you can find more information on our guest speaker today, Marcus DeBell, who's a business mindset coach. And we've been talking about his experiences. He's in Düsseldorf, Germany, not visiting, that's where he resides. And we're talking today about energy and focus, which is a great theme given that it's Mondays. And every Monday you can find us here. And Marcus, I guess, for people just tuning in and grasping this concept, some people might be able to relate to your experience and go, wow, it's like I need to find a sense of purpose other than my job and just taking care of my responsibilities. So I'm going to do that right now. Like I said, I'm just going to give you the screen, and I just want to make sure you're comfortable and good with that. So you'll just have the stage and talk about your philosophy and get right into it. I'm here, so anytime I could just pop on, but basically see yourself.
Okay.
And then you
So,
can use this for whatever you'd love as far as your future.
oh, rockets.
Yeah,
Rockets are,
so
I
you're going to
mean,
take off here, but this is your own segment here, and that way you can edit it for other purposes and things like that as well. So, did you want to? I mean, I can give you the screen, or did you want to talk about anything else before you jump into your talk on energy and focus?
yeah,
Yeah.
well, we can just make the transition to the current state in a way that I realized that I didn't know what I wanted to do, or put it the other way around. I was sure I wanted to work in the corporate environment any longer, but then to work with people who are really up for a change. And this is predominantly, I mean, my world, I mean, entrepreneurs who say, who start maybe at a point where they also had their awakening call, I would say. I mean, from being the victim in one sense, and they just wanted to escape where they were coming from, either from a corporate world or a job they had, and they still have, or they felt the inner urge to do something else in life, to build a business, right? To be responsible for their own lives and to create something good. But it's not just about the strategy at that part, because I mean, when you realize that you are responsible for everything what is happening in your life, in your business and life, then your mind kicks in because you're doing something for the first time. And our mind is not here to cheer us up. Our mind is not here to support us. Our mind just has, from my perspective, one basic task, which is to keep you alive. And if you're doing something new, if you're doing something which you have never done before, your subconscious mind will just state something like, hey, are you really sure you want to do this? There might be a tiger just around the corner who hasn't had anything for breakfast and he's just waiting for you to chew you, right? So, and this is where the energy parts comes in. Not only that you need to know what you want to achieve in life, what you want to do, I mean, to really tap into that passion or vision, you also have to be aware that that you're doing a lot of things which you have never done before, and they really need to keep an eye on your energy and a positive energy level, even if the surrounding isn't far from being optimal. You still have a dream, you still want to do something, you still want to create an impact, and you have to believe in yourself. And this is the energy part,
I think this
which
is
is
really great to lead into everything because you just said it. Like once you get going, you'll find, even though you haven't done this before on Monday's Live, there will be a line that does jump out, but it's a cartoon one. And yeah, and you're I guess relating to our audience, basically giving them the opportunity to zone in on their focus, right? Focus on the focus and the idea of the energy. I think for our viewers and listeners, this is really a great opportunity for you to grab a notebook and consider some of the ideas that Marcus Tabell, who is our guest today on Monday's Live, is going to share. And again, he is a business mindset coach. So I think you'll find this information highly valuable. And Marcus, like I said, I'm still here. I'll be jumping back in and we can conclude and I'll give you any notes or updates in the process of your talk. But otherwise, I'm going to give it to you. This is your stage on Monday's Live.
perfect. So what I do most of the time, see, when it comes to Mondays, also knowing that, I mean, for entrepreneurs, there's nothing like a Monday, because I mean they need to shift their whole lifestyle. But let's keep to the to the thing of a Monday, and a Monday morning is a good starting point also to recalibrate yourself, and also to step into your big vision again. So what is it really you want to achieve? Your big vision is not something you want to achieve by Friday. It's something really on what you want to achieve in 1 year's time, 3 years' time, or 10 years' time. And hopefully your vision is so big that you have no clue how to achieve that, or in the best case, your vision is so big that you will never achieve that. And this sounds, I mean, for most of the people, like a contradiction in a way, that you should that you should set yourself a vision which is so big, you have no clue how to achieve that, or that you will ever make it. The thing is that you need to tap into that big vision really on the emotional side. And that's something that you would say, hey, this is my perfect day. And let's stick to the more practical side of that. What you can actually do is picture yourself in 1 year's time and call it your perfect day. Reserve yourself, a couple of hours and write down every detail of your perfect day with all senses. So how do you wake up in the morning? What do you see? Who are you with? Where are you? How are you feeling? What do you smell? What kind of music or sounds do you hear? So write that down in every little detail, so that you, from the emotional side, actually can feel it, see it, what you're doing. And you can write 2 or 3 pages until you get up and get to the coffee or get to the bathroom. But write it in every detail. So what do you do in the morning? First thing, is it that you open the window and just look out of the window into the garden or into the sea, or that you have a nice sea view? Or do you make a coffee in the morning? What is it you wanted to do on your perfect day? Write it down in every little detail. And also what you do for a living. So what do you do for earning money? Are you working with your dream customers? Are you working on a new project? And how do you spend your time with your family, with your partner, with your spouse? And write down every little detail of your perfect day until you come to the last moment of that day when you close your eyes, lying in bed again. And this should be your North Star, more or less, of your perfect day or a vision. Because based on that, this is your future vision, which can pull you towards the things you wanted to do. As everything what you do in the now, in the present time, has to be linked to that perfect picture, to that perfect day. So that even when on a Monday morning you think like, hey, I don't really want to do this meeting, I don't want to answer that phone call, I don't want to answer that email, whatever you're doing, it changes completely if you tap into that perfect day in 1 year's time. So that for me, a perfect day or a good start in the day would actually be to recalibrate myself and also envision my future, my perfect day again, to come to a good energy point, an energy level, out of which I can then work on my to-do lists. And it is very interesting to see that although this seems like a very simple task or a simple thing to do, most people have actually a problem with that. Writing something like a perfect day, because they have not learned to think without limitations. In the moment they write down something like in 1 year's time, I don't know, I'm working 3 hours a day, for instance, or I'm living in a nice house near the sea, or I'm living on a farm, having 3 kids, or whatever your dream is. It doesn't have to be on a monetary side, but something which is completely impossible from a current point of view. And that is for most people really hard to write down. And this is because of the past experiences they had. They learned that they need to be realistic. They have learned the concept of SMART goals, right? Specific, measurable, and you know what I mean. That they are prohibiting themselves to dream, that they're prohibiting themselves into stepping into something which is far beyond the current presence. But the thing is that if you don't dream big, if you only think about a strategy goal which is achievable, then you will not change anything. Then you will not improve. Then you will not grow. Because the moment you set a specific goal, then there's nothing new you learn. There are no new things you have to accomplish. And it feels in a way safe based on your past experiences. But if you set goals like this, you will end up in 1 year's time at the very same place as you are today. So for the listeners of the podcast, this is more or less, I mean, the key learning which you can take with you, that you should start to dream again, dream big, and allow yourself to think of a future which is limitless, knowing also that you might never achieve it, right? I mean, it has to be unrealistic. But if you set a goal so high, which you can't even reach, then every step you're working towards that goal is far more than having just a realistic goal in the beginning. Mike, are you still there?
Yes, actually, I was just about to, I just finished this little chat there. Did you see that?
No. Okay. No. Okay. So,
Well, yeah, I was just
right.
going to say that I thought that was a great lead in. And since you're bringing me back on that for the listeners, like, all right, so what did Marcus just say? So we talked about creating a dream future, right? So if we can imagine ourselves 1 year out from today, and I like the analogy of New Year's. My birthday is pretty much just in the middle of the year in July. And so I get to have sort of a relaunch, but it could be anything. Today could be the anniversary of tomorrow's future, right?
Yes.
That you actually envision it and you write it down what the goals would be. You could do a visionary board, as Marcus also suggested, or whatever way that you immerse yourself in a feeling aspect.
Yes.
Imagine what it is if you had manifested it. What does it feel like? And then now begin to act as in this capacity, because this is the person you are evolving to become, that now
Yeah.
becomes actualized. Is that a good
Yeah.
way to say it?
Definitely. And so, I mean, you have to think of acting really out of this energy and out of the mentality of that future version of yourself, right? Really to act like that person. You will not be able to do everything like that. I mean, for instance, I mean, well, well, if you envision yourself to be a millionaire next year, I mean, it's like, well, on your perfect day, you would just go out and buy a Porsche, right?
Maybe.
Maybe, right? Then I don't mean that you should buy a Porsche now. It's just the energy of having the feeling that everything is right. That, I mean, everything what the universe will throw at you has its meaning. Either you learn or you grow. That opportunities are there. That you are so self-confident in what you're doing that whatever you start will eventually be good. So.
Yeah.
And not creeping out into self-doubt and is this really working out? Do I really have an impact? Can I really do this? So not into those nasty and energy levels or emotions which are coming from lack, right? But from an abundant energy, right? Something, hey, I mean, my perfect day is there. I just need to prove it, right? It's already there. I've written it down. And if I can imagine that, then I know it's for me. I just have to act like that.
Yeah, and people who look at traditions, or biblically speaking, they act as if the things that are manifesting ready for you, they're available to you. But have you really stepped into that in your own version, the self-worth attracts the value of what it is. And only then can you really receive it. It's not like some people haven't won the lottery and they became this instant multimillionaire, and then they spent all the money on the Porsches, which the super rich don't tend to do. There are some, but many of those who do buy the cars are not quite, but they envision themselves. Now, there's some people, I've actually been to sales meetings where people have argued they were trying to push them to live beyond their means so they could then realize that they have the responsibility now to pay the bills.
Yeah. And this is, I mean, well, stepping into that future version of yourself, which I call my coaching is future made coaching or identity based coaching, that I really support my clients really to step into that future version, as opposed to stepping out of the past. Because stepping out of the past always means, okay, you have to look into your limitations, your past negative stories, and you have to work on them. And as well, they sometimes gets the feeling of, hey, I mean, I cannot do anything before I haven't cleared out my past. I cannot step into, or I cannot do this project until I have cleared out all my self-doubt. Or
it's a belief system that something has
it's
to
a belief
happen in order for
system,
something else to
right?
occur.
Right.
And that might be
So-
limiting us, right?
right? And working out of this energy from the future version of yourself, then of course it's not like, I mean, dancing in the sunlight on a flower, on a like a unicorn or something. You of course find yourself with emotions like fear, like self-doubt. But in that very moment, you can ask yourself, okay, what I'm doing right now, would this be something my future version of me would find normal? Or would it, I mean, like if you're doing something for the first time, if you envisioned yourself in 1 year's time, wouldn't this what you're afraid of doing now, wouldn't this be normal for your future version? If yes, so then do it. Just simple as that. And if you're still having some mind blocks, then you can of course look into, okay, what is causing you the fear? I mean, is there any story in your past which you have to look into and change, right? I mean, what kind of your past stories do we have to change and give it a new meaning so that you can really progress and do the work?
Yeah, I like that as well. Where a person could do the analysis of a contrast, to look at, well, what do I have to do to be different and change? And how does that future self perceive me? And then evolving, like what you talk about, and we have to do more than one show, Marcus, about Elevate and your your AAA. That there's a way to accelerate this progress, and ultimately you end up achieving this because you are living this life, and it's happened because you stepped into this picture. And so it's no longer me just thinking about this future. You're actually in the process of manifesting it. There's nothing wrong with, like, you're going to look at your mind map or have something to guide yourself to where the destination is and make sure you're on track. And also, this is what you said. Does this feel right in comparing what my experience is or what I want to do to this ideal person? And then stepping into it and just being the ideal person. Now you're just living it that way, or this.
Yep.
It becomes a this rather than a that experience. Yeah, which is a very important distinction, by the way, because a lot of people are always talking about that which is out there, which is only perceived. And
Yeah,
that,
and this is also the biggest distinction between faking it. I mean, there's this saying, like, fake it until you make it, or becoming the person, right? Faking it, I mean, is all on the external side. Well, I can buy myself a fake Rolex, right, and say, well, I did it, right? But it has nothing to do with your inner belief system, because you need to trust yourself. You need to believe in yourself. You have to become self-aware and also to consciously create your reality. And this requires that you are on a level where you are resilient on one side, but also have a huge awareness on how you're feeling, how you're thinking, what your emotions are doing, and of course, I mean, what your core values are, so
Yeah.
that you can really decide, is this really something for me, or is this a goal, or what I'm doing right now just pushed on me, right? Or is this really coming out of my own self?
that's a good point. Hey, Marcus, let me reintroduce you right now. We have still 20 minutes left. So would you love to go into a second part where I give you the screen and you can talk about this or your AAA strategy or the Elevate? No, I'm saying, because really what I'll do is I'll reintroduce you, and then if you want to take that opportunity, I'll let you take the stage again. Otherwise, we can continue to just ramble back and forth, which is
Well, we can also, I mean, go back and forth, but I mean, we are in a way right now tapping also into the awareness thing. What we discussed upon the other day was that I think that we are living on various different levels, I would say. I mean, not tapping into all the conscious levels today. I mean, this would be too much, maybe for the
very
second.
exciting. Yeah, we discovered 4, or reiterated 4, but we're going to go into the 5th dimension pretty soon. So if you're
Yeah.
just tuning in right now, we are watching Marcus Tabel, who is a German business mindset coach. His ideas are really transformational. And as you know, this is what we're about on Monday. So if you are new to our show, Mondays Live comes to you live every Monday morning, and we love to tackle whatever the mindset is so that you can have the best Monday possible, the best week, the best month, the best year, and the best life possible. And that's what we're here all about. Mondays are a great way to do it. So why not make this a part of your regular schedule? I'm Dr. Mike. I'm a social scientist and the podcast producer right now, being the host and MC. In the future, I kind of envision we'll have different guest hosts as well as different, you could say, transformational themes that take us through the season of each particular show's episodes. And we're going to reintroduce our guest, Marcus. Marcus and I just met very recently, and we kicked it off. He was actually looking for a future podcast guest. I answered his call in the same business coaching group that we belong to. And I was curious about him anyways. I wanted to meet. I love meeting new people. And my God, what was supposed to be a 15-minute call ended up 2 hours.
Yeah.
We talked about some really amazing concepts. I have to say for myself, because I'm, of course, I was like, well, Mike, you're easily wowed. No, I'm not. I really like to get into the deep stuff. And Marcus has got some really great information. So one of the things we did talk about, and he related really quite well. And, it was sort of like I was just really entranced in the ideas, because I keep thinking this is groundbreaking in the way that we could share this information, in which what we're doing today on Mondays.org. Tell your friends. We looked at mindsets. And so, Marcus, I'm going to give it over to you. And I'm still here. But again, I think you really should just take this on, because you're going to go through the different levels. Now, how deep you want to go is up to you. But I do think, since we've already talked about it and given you this introduction, this luminous introduction, you really should talk a little bit about this, because this informs your philosophy and how you're approaching the work with your clients. So, Marcus, oh, by the way, Marcus, do you have a website? Real quick, I'll put it in the website later. But
Yeah, it's marcustiebel.com. So
Okay.
marcustiebel.com. So my name, just as simple as that.
Yeah, and if that was too fast, you didn't get the German accent, come to mondayslive.com. We'll have a whole profile page for Marcus when we do the replay. So, a little bit of teasing there, but I'm going to give it over to Marcus Tabell, business mindset coach extraordinaire.
Yeah, and well, okay, talking about mindset, I mean, a lot of people have already talked about mindset, and the most famous quote, I think that is from Henry Ford. He said, "Okay, if you believe you can do it, or if you believe you can't, you're always right." And this describes, in a way, also the mindset, or the mindset issue. That it's not about the strategy you have to do, or not about the to-do list you have to do. It's really what kind of attitude you have towards your goals, assuming that you have defined your goals or what you want to achieve. And it has so much to do with your inner belief system that what you're doing will actually be successful or not. And with this regard, or with this, I mean, this famous quote from Henry Ford: "If you believe you can do it, or if you believe you can't do it, you're always right." That's the main point, because your subconscious mind, which makes, well, 90, 95, 98% of your actual brain, is as subconscious as it's called. So I mean, you're not aware what is happening there. You only feel and hear your subconscious mind talking to you if you have an itchy feeling in your stomach, or if fear is coming up, or if you're frightened of something, or if you start something and then terrible things or terrible thoughts will come up and pop up in your mind. And that is your subconscious mind trying to tell you something, telling you something that it had, or that you have experienced something in the past which was a similar situation, and he just wants to avoid that you're running into the same negative feeling or negative emotion again. So the mindset is then on a surface level what you think or think or believe about something. And this is in a way something you can control with your conscious mind. So the moment you realize that you have an itchy feeling in your stomach, that for instance, I mean, I mean, if you have never been on a podcast show or never done a live, that you're getting nervous about sitting in front of people in a live, and don't know what to do and don't know what to talk about, that you have, I mean, this itchy feeling, and your subconscious mind is just warning you, hey, you're doing something new which you have never done before. Simply because of the fact that your subconscious mind will just secure and ensure that you will keep alive, or that you will stay alive. And your conscious mind, I mean, what your vision is, can be all for doing something, but your subconscious mind is just hindering you. And you can control this with awareness and working on your mindset, that you state yourself, yes, I have fear, but I'm doing it anyway. Yes, I need to think positive about that, and I need to really understand that I have power to do things. And this is your mindset and how you think about stuff. The really interesting bit is not the mindset and how you think about things, but what you really embody. So what your subconscious mind is thinking, believing deep down, which you don't really grasp. And this is the identity you hold. And we touched upon this already. I mean, when you create your vision in the future and how you will be in 1 year's time. And the identity part is then to really figure out, okay, how is that person in 1 year's time thinking, believing, acting? With what kind of people is he or is she surrounded by? That you really step into that identity, and this is a complete shift, which happens sometimes so quickly that. That you don't have to overcome some mind shifts or mind blocks or something. And the most easiest part of understanding this mindset shift is, for me as being a runner, that mindset work, I compare it that way, is you are sitting on your couch and telling yourself, well, before I'm able to run the first mile, putting on my shoes and go out for a run, I first have to step into the mindset of being a runner. So then you sit on the couch and thinking about all the things which are holding you back from really putting on your shoes and going out for a run. The identity work is you will become a runner in the moment you decide that you want to go for a run. And this means that you step into that identity as a runner. So, and for a runner, this feels quite normal, that sometimes he's not feeling like going out for a run, but he puts on his shoes anyway. Why? Because he has the identity of a runner. So instead of sitting on the couch, he will just go out and go for a run, for a 1 miler, 5 milers, or running a marathon. And this is not always easy. I mean, running a marathon or going out training when it's raining, when it's cold, when it's snowing. But as being in the identity of a runner, this feels normal. If it would just work on your mindset, then you would still sit on the couch, looking out the window and tell yourself, well, I don't want to go outside now because it's raining. And I'm feeling not so good. And maybe when I go out for a run during the rain, I get a cold on something. So you're telling yourself all the negative stories why you're not doing the stuff. Again, switching mindset to identity work, being a runner, you would say, okay, well, it's raining. I better put on some extra layer on my clothes, or maybe a raincoat, and then go out for a run. You will do the stuff anyway, because you have stepped into the identity of a runner. And this is also what you can do on a Monday morning. I mean, of course, having the vision of what you want to do, being clear on that, stepping into that energy, stepping into that identity, and then also looking into the tasks and things you have to do on the small scale as well as on the bigger scale, which will bring you forward towards your vision and goal. And this is much, much easier out of the identity of being that person in the vision, as opposed to just working on your mindset and telling yourself, yes, I mean, I have to write this email, I have to work on this process, yes, I have to call this customer because, I mean, I need to do things. So identity work and energy work as well as vision goes hand in hand. And I think this is, again, now time for Mike to step in and summarize it as he has already done it, and to inform our viewers again about our great show.
Oh, it's a fantastic show, actually. I'm just, yeah, it is true. I've been taking some notes, and he said, like, summarize it as I've already done. So since I've done the future work already, I don't need to do it now. No, but I did quickly an envelope here. I'm always fascinated. Marcus, I have to say, you're one of the few guests that I really get enraptured by and go, oh, yeah, this is really great material. Because I see the practical use of it for really everyone. So we do have a number of coaches that tune into Mondays because they see this as kind of a coach community connection. And I think collaboratively, we have some really great ideas that not only is going to inform our community, but help our clients. And I think we are coming to sort of to recognize that we are in a special period of time right now. And some of the ideas we're talking about, at least in my mind, are very profound in the way that we can present the opportunity for people to have the breakthroughs that they so desire. And so I want to talk real quick about what you talked about. So when you're talking about these mindset shifts, I started thinking, it's like, yeah, well, I have a vision like what would a good day be? So maybe I could come up with like a good day checklist. And this morning, it's Monday morning and it's kicking off the show and I have you as a guest. I've already done a few things. We had our time change here in America, as you may or may not, as you do probably figured out because you had to catch me in my time. So a lot of people today on the news are talking about how there's more accidents today and people are grumpy and there's fights at work. This is what's going on. So they've already given reasons for things to occur.
Hmm.
And so I often wonder, like, when we give an example of something, we want people to make that contrast and go, well, this is where you want to go. So why not act a little bit more in this regard? But we tend to pull them back ourselves, saying, oh, well, aren't you the type of guy that does wake up late and complain anyway about Monday? So why don't we just reinforce that? So we have to be really careful in the way that how we come across things. But I started thinking maybe it's like we take our daily vitamins, maybe we can call it like a daily vital mind. You see, like it's
Vital mind,
vital
yeah.
mind.
Or
Yeah,
vivid mind. Vivid mind.
yeah, that's very good. Yeah. Of course, not everyone's mind is vivid.
No, not
Yeah.
at all. Not at all.
But otherwise, I think having some kind of regimen that calling this the new normalcy, that this is how it is, rather than the excuses of the past or what I might have said to not go outside because I don't want to get wet or have a raincoat. It was really just because I didn't feel like running. But if I really feel like running, I'm going to take the advantage and do what I would love to do. And that means the love of the sport or the activity or this sense of being, I describe as ultra being, your best, that you're just going to act into it. It's no longer going to have to be something where I got to think it out. But I understand about this identity process that if we're so tied into the identity, and I look at identity as ID being internal dialogue, if I'm not aware of what I'm saying to myself about myself, I'm not going to take the effort to go out and wear a raincoat or run along the awning so I stay dry, but I still get my run in because I know that I'm not going to go wet going this direction versus running into it. So I love all that. And um, I guess looking at something where I'm realizing things that you talk about, and I'm thinking about, our viewers, if you've taken any notes on this, that you have a certain realization. And now the idea is, well, how do I act differently or perform on this level,
Mm.
acting as if I'm this particular person? So I was going to say maybe you could talk a bit about that, but also how someone could go about feeling that they've resolved something in the past so they can finally erase the bulletin board that's got
Okay.
all the
Okay.
complaints. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, first of all, as I said, I mean, we're all living in four different conscious levels, but let's stick just only to the first two. I mean, makes it more direct. I mean, they are, and everyone who's listening or viewing this podcast can definitely agree. There are people who are complaining all day long, right? The weather is bad. My boss is right. Well, I have my kids are too loud, whatever. I mean, they're always complaining and they will always find something they can complain about. And that is I would say, I mean, the conscious mind or conscious level of a victim, right? Because I mean that person who's always complaining doesn't understand that he can form or bend the reality. I mean, it sounds like superstitious or woo-woo and so forth.
Science fiction, you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, science fiction. But I mean, how our brain is functioning is that, I mean, where you put your focus again, right? It becomes more visible. And that person who's always complaining will always find something to complain about. as opposed to a person who always sees something like an opportunity, like something, hey, I mean, this life is so great. Hey, yeah, it's raining, but there is the rainbow, right? I mean, you always find something positive, but both are living in the same world. But everybody is experiencing the world differently. Why? Because the first one is only concentrating on the negative bit, not seeing his own agency, that he or she is actually capable of changing what he sees, what he realizes, and what he can do. The other one is seeing everything like at least normal or at an average level or positive level. Why? Because he or she is only concentrating on the positive side. So there are two different levels. I mean, the first one is the victim. The other one is saying, hey, I mean, let's see this as an opportunity. What can I do about this? Hey, I mean, it's raining. Okay, I'm going out for a run anyway. So I just put on another layer of clothes, right? So that I don't get a cold. So he's not reacting, but acting. And in this way, creating his own positive experience, which doesn't always have to be that easy, but he's accepting things. For somebody, so for some people, rain is really a disaster. For the other one, it's just, well, okay, just put on other clothes.
The third side where you might go out singing in the rain and you're running, you're sliding in the water and you're like, yeah.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
That's a new reaction, or new action maybe than a reaction. So,
And the main difference between those two conscious levels is the first one is not, well, on the victimhood. I mean, seeing himself or herself as a victim, I cannot do anything. I cannot change it. It's like that. And the other person is saying, well, I have maybe not the control of what is happening to me, but I have full control about how I react on that.
yeah, my thinking.
So in a way, I'm not a victim of everything what the universe is throwing at me, but I can react. I can decide. Do I want to be agitated? Do I want to feel good? Do I feel bad? Do I want to feel bad or not? It's in your own hands and how you act on it. So you're not a victim any longer, but you take on the full responsibility, because at the end of the day, you're 100% responsible for everything what is in your life right now, whether you like it or not. It's nobody else's fault.
You better like it. As Humphrey Bogart used to say, the famous actor of the last century, he said, take it and like it. So you
take it and like it. Yes, exactly. Take it and like it.
So with that, we should wrap up because we are on the hour pretty much. We can go another minute and sort of do a quick summary. You've been watching MondaysLive.com. I'm the host, Dr. Mike, and every week we feature a different speaker. Mondays morning motivation is what it's all about here. And we had some really keen insight today with our special guest, Marcus Tabel, who's in Düsseldorf, Germany, and he is a noted business mindset coach. And we were talking about the 45 levels of consciousness and sort of really how we need to take this opportunity here and now to really step forward into our future mate self. Marcus, give everyone your website again and how they can contact you.
So it's basically my name. So it's marcustebel.com.
Yeah.
As simple as that.
Name's on here. And if you're just hearing this, want to catch it again, just go to mondays.org and you can watch the replay as well. Marcus, any quick 30-second outro words and just summarizing everything and our experience today?
Well, I mean, if you take something with you, I mean, just remember this quote from Henry Ford: "If you believe you can do it, or if you believe you can't do it, you're always right." And I wish that you will always believe in yourself.
There we go. All right, thanks, Marcus. We can hang on for a little bonus time here. I'll just conclude the recording and we'll keep the live stream going for a little bit if you're on YouTube. Anyway, you've been watching MondaysLive.com. I'm your host, Dr. Mike, and our special guest today, Marcus Tabel. You will see more of him. So we definitely have plans, and we've talked about a lot of really great ideas here. Thanks again. Catch us every week and tell your friends at mondays.org.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, we'll keep the YouTube going just for a minute here. This is bonus material if you're just catching us on mondayslive.com. And so what I'll do later, I'll just send you the MP4 of solid hour that we did.
Yeah.
And you can use it for your purposes, and we'll have the replay on the website. So again, if you're just catching us on the live stream, this is mondayslive.com. We do a weekly live stream, which is all about success, motivation, kicking off your week, using Mondays as a catalyst. So it's a good name, mondays.org. And our special guest is Marcus Tabel, who's a German business mindset coach. He mentioned the German because if you hear a little bit of an accent or he's talking about some ideas that might be foreign, understand.
Well, I'm a German alien, right?
There you go. Yeah. And by the way, we didn't mention earlier, this is his real backdrop. This is not my backdrop. Mine's, but this is
Yeah,
really actually.
mine is real. Yes,
Yeah, it's really nice.
mine is real.
And I think in your other life you were interior designer. So, but this is what we're talking about as well. Oh, I like that contrast too. Interior redesign. It's like, that works. I think it could in my marketing mindset. So I want to talk about a couple of things that we'll probably do off camera, but I think for people who are just catching this, the whole concept, where we look at life that we could see this normal, but we're not satisfied with, does need examination, right? Because if we're not satisfied, and this is our life, this is a good opportunity to examine, what is my mindset? How am I relating to the world?
Yeah.
And should I not be aware of how I'm relating? And then examine if I can change. So I think that's very profound in that way. By the way, I just got to hold this up. So this is just by chance. I'm having, like mentioned, I'm packing up my office.
White mastery.
Yeah, so these are old CDs that are used for therapeutic. Positive Changes was a franchise for hypnosis clinics and malls. I never visited them, but the material was pretty good, so I bought what I could, And you could even sit with these machines and listen to it and have flashing lights and all that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but anyway, just because I just thought, oh, the title kind of fits what we're talking about. Maybe we'll do the updated version of that. So, I just think of the opportunity here and how we could work in our community. So talking about community of coaches and the clients. So it's sort of like a wide 3C because community can be very vast, but coaches who would carry on our work, who then themselves are frustrated with not having either the number of clients or the success results of their clients. And then really just having that, whether I approach myself as really being more of a consultant, because my work tends to be pretty quick, but obviously I'm in the role of coaching if I'm helping someone achieve a certain goal. And that's what the Success Club used to be all about. And so mindset was really such an important element of it. And what I liked about, and where Mondays comes into it, but what I liked about the Success Club was people used to look forward to coming to our meetings because it was a club and it was all about success. And people would dress up and you'd have this great attitude and we'd have a guest speaker. And every month people would share the progress from what the last meeting was about.
Yeah.
So it created a certain dynamic that I think it would be lovely to bring that back. I gave up the Success Club, as for different reasons, to work in my other career as a seminar promoter, which I was quite successful at. But I gave up on my own dream to work on other people's ideas. Not to say I wasn't successful and didn't have benefit and enjoyment from having the association. But a lot of people ask, well, what happened? Where'd you go? And unless they knew you in that industry, Marcus, or they saw you at that convention or at the airport, you were in your world doing your thing and living out a certain life. And that was your identity. And so when we started the show, before we started to hit the record, you brought up something which I do want to come back to when we turn off the recording. And some people might have a lot of ideas because they're still trying to find themselves and what's going to be the best regard, not only for success, like to achieve monetary goals and all that, but there's underneath it all, they're trying to find, well, what's going to represent me?
Yeah. That's the core values. I mean, this is all my coaches. I mean, they will go through a very, very deep practice or homework, I have to say, to really tap into their core values. So what is really defining how they feel, how they react, how they make decisions, why they are doing some stuff, sometimes repeatedly, which is not doing them any good. So really to tap into that.
How long does your process work, by the way? Because you say if you're taking other coaches, they're going to get some certification or how, so what are they getting and how long does it take for them to go through that immersion process, whether it's just that phase or to complete work with you?
You mean how to tap into your own values, or what do you mean?
Yeah, because you said you're taking coaches through a process. So you're working with a certain level of, you could say, people who have some knowledge of what we're talking about. And you're helping them discover themselves on this other plane, you could say, plane.
Yeah.
Is it something you have written out as modules already, or you're working it, or is it really individual, customized to that?
Well, I do have some. I of course have a framework, I would say,
Yeah, right.
right? Because I mean, every person is individual. So I'm most of the time working one-on-one with my clients. So, and then I can more easily adapt to the situation, right? I'm always following the same framework. I'm tapping into the core values of what they have, then stepping into their big vision, and then translating that big vision into the identity, what they need to become, and then stepping into that identity and building really a strategy and daily actions and habits on that. So, I mean, this is always the same framework, I would say. And the same also for coaches to really understand what their customers are actually doing. So, I mean, what kind of visions do their customers have? What kind of identity do they want to step in? And what are the steps you as a coach will bring them so
I think that's really
that your customers will actually achieve their goals. So it's
right.
again the same framework.
Yeah, and I love that framework and the idea of it being a theme for a workbook that you take the coaches through, but they can use the exact framework for their clients, and the questions are right there. And it's just really filling out the form and maybe getting a little bit of that coaching and watching the videos. Well, I think that would be very powerful. Um, so it's bonus material for Mondays. I don't know how I'm going to get you the hat. I have to mail it to you unless you come to the States. We got plenty for anybody who.
Cheers.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
so relating to that though, maybe Mondays can be a tool for that because I don't know if I should stop the recording. We can keep going for this. I guess as long as we're relating to Mondays, we can record a little bit longer as long as you're comfortable and you're good for time. And I mentioned in the email that in an hour, I've been having these meetings with social media agencies. So they're like PR agencies, but they specialize just in PR, and they're not like just little mom and pop or someone overseas. They have teams.
Mm.
And I don't know how they're finding me, but this is like third or fourth different company. It's probably at least fourth, actually, think about it. And so I want to hit on these different ideas, so how to bring the work forward and then have it managed. There's a lot of AI and software that can help you repost stuff. But if you start in a theme, particularly like what we've recorded today, and now can break it up into segments like YouTube Shorts, or then feed into content that people sign up for a newsletter or a training webinar. I think that's the direction where this needs to go. So relating to you and what Marcus is texting me through LinkedIn, which if you're not on LinkedIn and you're in business, this is something you got to consider. so you can get it into our comments here. What we're doing, Marcus is like saying, confirming the time change. And then I'm telling him walking to the office, he's asking me questions. So how's this for our theme today on focus and energy? And I don't see that text. So I just walk into the office and tell him, let's go online. But as we're in the process he's doing that, I see that looking at your Mondays website and who you are and all that, you got all these really, really great, we're just saying great ideas. And he says, well, who are you and where are you focused and where are we taking it? Now, of course, I'm really departmentalized. Like we're going to go live in a couple minutes. So right now we're going to be the Mondays live team. But Mark is asking the core question because I find myself going through this transformation. By the way, we got just a quick text. Someone said, love the show. So someone was watching and they just said that they really love the show. So
Perfect.
how about a slogan for you and Marcus? Make Mondays great again.
Oh.
Okay, so Marcus, just on this theme right now, this is one of my ideas. This is in my celestial orbit, just one planet. Now, I needed a New Year project, and I kind of picked this because I thought, well, it's kicking off the new year, and Mondays would be that. And I've interviewed a lot of interesting guests. I kind of love it, but I was not the host. I had this kid come on who was trying to do something like this. I saw him on Eventbrite, trying to do a New Year's kickoff, back in November, December. And he did a few shows, but he was always kind of late, not really quite media trained in the way that he could have been, but there was promise. But then he got distracted to do some MLM activity, which is fine. That's where he's at. But he just totally abandoned it. So I sort of like, well, I'm producing it. I'll come back and lead it. But you see that this has its own life to it or vision where it could be a community to kick off your week and Mondays. I'd like with many other ideas, to birth it, to develop it, and have it a life of its own where I kind of step back so I can work on my book, my other projects. You know what I mean? I'm still on it. I'm still being a part of it, but it's taking care of itself, whether it grows organically or some other new host comes on and takes it to the next level. And there could be a series like other shows do, like with a season. You could have one particular show or typical themes that bring in a special guest host. I'm just throwing these ideas out there because this is just one idea. I would like to I could use this as a vehicle for myself. I understand that, but I would like for it to be developed so it can live on its own. And we still, or at least for myself, maybe in the backside of the VIP room, or you come backstage or have a breakout room, or we do a training on people looking to get certification in coaching. I think that would be a wonderful way to take this, because Monday is a great way to kick off the week, and we're a part of this community that brings everyone together. But more or less, I would, even on the producer of it, I still take to let this have a life of its own. I set a direction, but it can go where it needs to go. You know what I'm saying? So that's that. But on the other side, though, I think, given the experience of coming back from New York, when we were talking about that, was, by the way, folks, I think you do know, if you watch regularly, that I was doing this for New York for 2 weeks, and I loved it. I came so alive in that city versus cow country. Nothing wrong with it, but that's where I'm at right now.
It's a different energy.
Different energy, yeah, and it corresponded in that way. But it has come to fruition especially with me just starting VBS and knowing I'm taking on a lot. I need to let go of a lot. Like, I'm going to let go of the office. And while I'll do my own podcast, I might not be full into the idea of producing a channel until I'm really ready for that next step. But the CEO directory is my next launch. And I think how you can support me on that is keeping the focus. It will have its own life. All I need to do is talk to coaches, get them on the phone, help them understand. If they're working with a CEO, this is a great community to bring them into. Mondays could be a part of that. And it just fits naturally into the flow of a weekly schedule, and it's beautiful. It makes the money, it pays the rent, and it allows for me to have the time to do the other things. And I think also our thinking, from the follow-up email I sent from our initial call, that we could look at and evaluate Elevate Summit, that elevation would really be key. So for you to get me is like, yes, like maybe he does have his vision to seeing things, and they could be pretty profound. How to rein him in, or my capacity to work with him, so that we're focused on accomplishing these things. I'm very amenable in this way because I love everything. So whatever we talk about, I'll probably get into. It's not to say that there aren't things I'm going to say, well, we could do this better, because I'll say that. However, I'm all game to totally bought into the idea that we could take something to another level, and I'm there. I really am. You know what I mean? So how then could you best utilize my energy and focus, which I think probably in some part of your subconscious was purposely picking that, because
Yeah, I mean, subconsciously or also consciously, I mean, focus and energy. As I said in the beginning, I mean, looking at all the different projects, I mean, book projects and podcasts and Mondays and CEO and so forth. I was thinking, okay, where do you focus on right now? Because I mean, spreading all the energy to all the different projects. I mean, looking at my point of me, right? I would just only have, I mean, a little percentage of energy left for each individual project, and I wouldn't have really the feeling of get going. So
right.
instead of
And
focusing on
like,
one part and saying, okay, well, let's do this and do this for a while, and then make it and put yourself your main focus on.
So yeah, so I want to go into that. So what Marcus is sharing, for those that are still live with us, is think about a balloon that you could inflate, and it could be someone's ego, but because there's so many ideas that there's small punctures, so the air is actually, you could patch one area, but now you've got another, because you got another, and you got another. And it affects many areas, right? Because there's only so much time in the day. And what Marcus is talking about, your focus on makes a difference, and also your energy relating to it. And also affects your finances too, because if you're putting money in different directions, or not potentially really drawing from your primary source, it's going to take the next level. It's all gone. So you tapped into exactly the phase that I'm coming to recognize. It's always been there. And this is talking about decades. And yes, in some way, I wouldn't call it a genius factor, but to have the capacity to have a lot of ideas and to mesh them and take in like a vacuum cleaner things and then sort them, it's still very cluttered and it's messy. And if you would step in my space, you'll see bookmarks here and there of pages open and ideas. That has to change, because there's only now in this particular stage of life, and maybe this phase of life and the time that we're in, the opportunity is going to pass us by unless you really laser focus, at least for myself, seeing that. And I want to do that. I mean, a lot of things, like I explained a year ago, being divorced and this phase of moving through life, for myself, if we're going to do any coaching, which I should avail myself of the opportunity, is to say, okay, I need to make these decisions. And March is really that month to march forward, and to not look back anymore and say, I'm going to take on this new identity as Dr. Mike, and I'm going to start promoting the books. And I have my one or two business ventures that I can put the time into, that's just a natural affiliation to what I'm doing.
So what is your future version of yourself doing in 1 year's time? That's the big
Yeah,
question.
so I'm gonna answer that question for you right now. Okay, so because I thought about that when you brought it up. So we probably still are doing Mondays live. I don't know if we'll be doing it together. We'll have a different guest host, but certainly um, in years' time, I know a lot has evolved, but I see at least in the succinct capacity to where things are right now, unpublished. You know, instead of publish in the traditional publishing world, that could be tricky because it takes a year to get to the press. You know what I mean? Where you're on the newsstand, or if you're going to be in a bookstore per se. You could self-publish before, but certainly on Kindle and the ebook, you know, I have published something, and you know, and we're very close with. If someone's going, what are you going to publish, Dr. Mike? Well, you can go to drmike.org to find out, but otherwise, phenombook.com. And the IGO, I think I'd love to have the traditional book deal signed for that project. And that would be a big difference. And probably Mass Trance, given everything going on with our society, masstrance.com, the hypnosis of society. So I love that I would have most of my day writing. I'm still on the phone with my clients, you could say, but they're a very select few number of clients that I'm working with, big names. And then I'm a part of a group, coaching groups that either I'm involved with coaching or I'm getting the coaching because I'm at that level to work with these particular people who really are on that level. You know what I mean? And either having me as support or because I'm making that kind of money, I'm gladly paying them. You know what I'm saying? So there you go, right? But more solid and tangibly in a new relationship or renewed relationship, depending if it's someone from the past that I reconnected with. And very comfortable, you know, in the sense that, you know, I'm not so constrained in the way that not having stepped into this future identity or future mate self that you talk about, Marcus, is the struggle of, well, which way do I go? These are all really great ideas, but which is practical, which makes the most sense, which is true to myself. And so that would be, you know, in the regard of the social philosopher published. You know, I hesitant to call myself psychologist because it's sort of like I'm not giving psycho advice to anybody.
But exactly, I mean, this okay, which way to go? Because at some level or at some point in your life, I mean, it's not a question that you do not have too many options, that you have too few options,
Which is a
right, to
great
choose
privilege, isn't it?
between. You have
Yeah.
too many, right? So,
Yeah.
and it's always the question, okay, shall I go left or right? And what you realize,
Go left.
right? So, yeah. So, and what you realize is that, and what I realized on my own, in my own life, and also with my customers, is that the only way you can decide is by knowing your values, full stop.
Yeah, can we
Because it
talk about
makes
what we
it,
did on the weekend? Let's go through the MVP because I think that's inclusive of everything, but we can start with the V in the middle.
yeah. So, I mean, that is once you tap really into your core values, and also understand that that in the past you did a lot of things which are against your values, and it always ended up in a disaster. I mean, on a small scale or a big scale, right? But it always ended up in either not feeling too good, or having problems, or I don't know.
But
But
those
if you look,
disasters, though, have taught people too that if they hadn't gone through it, they would still be doing it. But some people are. They're repeating the same mistakes over and over again, like the fly hitting the wall. That's insanity.
yeah, but they're not satisfied with themselves. I mean, they don't live in abundance, I would say, or in ease, or whatever you want to call it, because I mean they're still struggling, they're grinding, they're struggling, they're still trying to figure it all out. I mean, what is it I need to do now to be satisfied?
Yeah, so I want to go to the values point, but this idea of the doing is that they tend to think that if they do something, they're going to become something. And to
Yes,
me, that's the treadmill of life that you're thinking.
that's I mean that's now you have to become, right, and then do.
So you have to become a person of value first, and then
Yes,
the value is going to show up in the activity or how you.
yes.
Yes. Yeah,
Yes.
no, I love that. What I find so amazing about Marcus, and I'm going to talk about Marcus, and he's right here in front of us, is that we hit it off right away. So normally, you know, I find people intriguing. I really enjoy talking with people, but sometimes it's like, well, wait a minute, that's exactly how I think about things. And then we sort of, it's like, how could it be possible? You live in a totally different culture, so whatever that would be. But no, there's enough to relate in the daily experience of life that how we're showing up to the experience and realizing that we're in the experience is a very profound realization that most people either they are hiding from that or they haven't placed themselves into that regard because they haven't appreciated, you know, what they've experienced that's brought them here. And now they can step up in this new value and it might be a judgment on things, because it's a value judgment. Do I participate in this activity? Does it serve my vision of who I am? Or am I still attached to something that I feel I haven't resolved, as Marcus talked about earlier, that if I just take care of these problems or my childhood trauma and 5 more years of therapy, that's going to do it. Now, if you're in therapy and you are working things out and you are making progress, there's nothing wrong with self-discovery in the way that things are occurring, but do we not want a breakthrough? And that is a transformation, not just in how, I'm regarding myself for life, but how I'm actually being in the way that I'm showing up. And that's what I think, Marcus, you really sort of, I don't like the analogy of hitting a nail on the head, but certainly that kind of works in this regard, because the value judgment is representing how I value myself and what I'm accomplishing in life, in the value of this equation, in the conversations I have with people. Like my divorce thing, I was totally a pushover. I was gaslighting. I bought into this lower self-identity that, even though it's crazy to think about, I won't talk about it. It'll be another. I have Loving Conversations as another potential podcast, lovingconversations.com, how to do it lovingly. But really, people have been put through quite a bit. And so you can feel like, oh my God, well, sure, you feel that. And the trauma is there, perhaps. But the fact that people continue to live it out as a drama, so a drama, you perpetuate it rather than the ability to let it go, because you're still haven't valued
Exactly.
yourself on that level.
Yeah. And this is the difference between victimhood or really feeling that
Valuehood. I love
that
that.
you are
Victimhood and
responsible
valuehood.
for it.
Ooh,
Right.
we're going to use that, Marcus. I like the way we bounce off of each other. So valuehood or victimhood? Because I think the valuehood is this opportunity now to step into what this means. Otherwise, it might be harder for people to get it. So something I shared with Marcus, I just got to throw it in there because I want this to be sort of the practicum where people talk about it on this level of the MVP. So in a sports world, it's most valuable player. In the SaaS world, or for it to be in Silicon Valley, it's the minimum value proposition. And these all kind of fit in the context that if we're really attuned to this identity that Marcus is talking about, this future made self, at least how I perceive it, Marcus, and please correct me, because I'm always open to feedback and redirection, is that we have found a sense of mission. And the way that we're living our lives now, things that we're doing, accomplishing in this process of being is really more meaningful. And it's really clear what Marcus is talking about. There's value now in everything that I'm doing, that I appreciate these things. So my thinking is now coordinating itself to, wow, I have a vision and this value. So MVP, mission, vision, is now being valued, and I'm living it as in substance of acting as a person who has value and is appreciated. Not that I have to put myself on you or get on your case. It's nothing like that. It's just that you're in this position. And then the P, so mission, vision, and finding purpose in the way that now you have this identity and you're living life. And Stephen Covey, who is an important person in my life, I didn't know personally, often talked about you got to have a purpose. And so in this purpose, having a mission, vision, now you can have passion, because it all aligns. MVP.
Yeah, exactly. The P is passion.
Yeah, and living it as such, Yeah, I think, so we could end it here and talk a little bit offline if you'd love, but I think, if anyone is really attracted to this work, you should check out Marcus's website. So his name, if you're watching, obviously if you're watching still on YouTube Live, it's right there, but marcustabell.com, right?
Perfect.
Marcus@tabell.de is your email. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. Anyway, you can go to mondayslive.com. We'll put up a page for Marcus where you can watch the replay. Please share this with your friends. And if you have any comments, opinions, or would like to get in touch with Marcus, the information will be there. All right. Well, we're going to end the YouTube live stream. Anything else you want to conclude with or say, hey, or what?
Well, thank you for having me here. So, and well, it's nice talking, and well, I love talking about my work. So, I mean, that's good.
Yeah, and I think, for those of us that are looking to do a coaching community, talking about a conscious coaching community, get back to us so we can do another meeting with Marcus in the future. All right.